I tried to prepare a perfect sentence instead of just jumping in. The consequence came immediately. I forced out a formal line. I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint regarding, and the group went quiet. Someone changed the subject. Now I'm stuck wondering, did my voice note even show real progress? I missed the moment. The pause grew longer while I searched for perfect words. The group laughed. I had a follow-up, but I stayed silent. Now it's too late. That pause growing longer, that's the feeling of hesitating. You lose your turn. The pause grows longer means a reusable English chunk for this exact situation.
You had something to add, didn't you? I saw you. You had that look, like you were about to speak, then you stopped. You were rehearsing it in your head, weren't you? You wanted it to be perfect.
I was just trying to find the right way to say it. I wanted it to sound perfect. But while I was rehearsing, the conversation moved on. Now I've lost my chance.
Maya's colleagues laugh at a joke. Maya has a related idea, but stays silent to prepare the perfect sentence. Maya has one urgent goal: to share her opinion in a group conversation without letting the perfect sentence delay her. A lively after-work conversation among co-workers in a cafe. 6:30 p.m., continuous.
So, what do I do now? The topic has moved on. I feel like I missed my only chance. I wish I could go back and just say something, anything. But it's too late.
You could try again now. But if you use a long, formal sentence like, I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint, you might miss the moment again. That's missing the moment when your language doesn't match the conversation. Try something simpler.
I attempt to re-enter with a formal sentence. I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint, but the group goes quiet, then a colleague changes topic. Opening state of a half-finished voice note on my phone. One line recorded, then paused. I adds a second attempt. I finishes and sends it.
That was a bit too formal for this group. See, the energy changed. Everyone went quiet. That's what happens when you use language that doesn't fit the situation. You missed the moment again.
I can't believe I said that. The whole group went quiet. I need to disappear. I'll just open this voice note I started earlier. It's the one where I was talking about the project. Anything to avoid looking at them.
You don't need a perfect sentence. Use a simple opener like the way I see it. That buys you a second to collect your thoughts. Next time a topic comes up, just try that. Even if it's not perfect, you'll be in the conversation.
I attempt to re-enter with a formal sentence. I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint, but the group goes quiet, then a colleague changes topic. The useful wording here is, the way I see it, ... The conversation moves on, and my chance is lost. Use by time with a calm, clear tone. For example, by time. Say it again without overstressing every word.
Exactly. But you noticed that that's the first step. Now you can aim for a simpler tone. The group will respond better if you sound like you're just sharing an idea, not giving a presentation.
I'm still scared. What if I use that opener and they ignore me? Then I'll feel even worse. Maybe I should stay quiet for now. I don't want to mess up again in front of everyone.
Staying quiet won't help. The only way to improve is to practice. Next time a topic comes up, jump in with that phrase. And honestly, the more you do it, the easier it gets. I promise.
I'll try. But first, can you show me how to pronounce it? The way I see it sounds different when you say it fast. How do you link the words? I want to get the rhythm right this time.
Sure. Notice how it becomes the before a vowel sound, and words ending in a vowel link to the next word starting with a vowel. So see it becomes see it. Practice that slowly. The way I see it, that's the natural rhythm.
I think I've got the linking now, the way I see it. It feels much smoother. But what about the intonation? Should it go up or down at the end? I want it to sound natural, not like I'm reading. Listen to the stress and linking in the way I see it. Say it once smoothly, the way I see it.
You can start with a slight rise to show you're continuing, then drop at the end of your idea. But don't overthink it. The main thing is to start. What if someone says the project is behind schedule?
So if someone says the project is behind schedule, I could say the way I see it, we need to prioritize tasks. That feels natural. But what if they disagree? I'm worried about the follow-up. I need another phrase for that.
You can use, could I ask a question? I want to understand your point better. That buys you time and shows you're listening. We'll practice that next. For now, get comfortable with the way I see it. Practice that one.
That's actually what I needed earlier. When I tried to speak, I said, I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint regarding the budget allocation. The moment the words left my mouth, The room went quiet. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Then Tom quickly changed the subject to weekend plans. I felt so embarrassed.
So instead, you could start with that makes sense, but, for example, that makes sense, but I think we should try a different approach. Try saying that.
It's hard to forget how awful it felt. I couldn't make eye contact. I just stared at my phone at that half-finished voice note. I felt like giving up.
You don't have to sound like a textbook. The group just wants to hear your real opinion. That formal sentence made you sound distant. Try something closer to how you actually talk.
I guess I thought I needed to sound professional to be taken seriously. But it backfired. Everyone just felt uncomfortable. I really want to contribute, but I keep overthinking every word. I end up missing the moment.
I understand. The key is to start with something simple. For now, notice how the group reacts when you use a simple connector. They relax. The next time you want to share a different view, try that makes sense, but, and see what happens. It's a small change, but it works.
I attempt to re-enter with a formal sentence. I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint, but the group goes quiet, then a colleague changes topic. The useful wording here is, the way I see it, ... The conversation moves on, and my chance is lost. Transfer the same wording to a new detail. Start with what changed for me was. For example, what changed for me was. Now make one true sentence of your own.
That's a great insight. And notice how you just used, what changed for me was naturally. That's exactly the kind of phrase that works in real talk. You're building a toolbox of simple starters. You can use them anywhere. Keep practicing it.
I think I'm starting to get it. The goal isn't to sound perfect, it's to connect. I used to think I had to prepare every sentence. But now I see that the real skill is starting, then adjusting. I'm going to use that makes sense, but next time.
Exactly. And remember, you can always ask a question to buy time. We'll work on that next. For now, just get comfortable with these two phrases. Keep going. The group will respond differently.
I remember that moment when I tried to say, I would like to propose an alternative viewpoint. The group went quiet. It felt so stiff. I withdrew immediately. That experience showed me how formal language can kill a conversation.
I used to think I needed perfect grammar, but now I understand that starting simple is more important. Your sentence was too rehearsed. I used to think, but now is a natural pattern for sharing growth. Before I answer, say your own line with I used to think, but now.
I wanted to disappear. I checked my phone to avoid eye contact. That's when I opened my voice note. It was a half-finished recording from earlier.
You pulled out your phone as a shield. I saw you and realized you needed a different approach. That's why I leaned in to whisper a tip. You were withdrawing, but help was about to come.
I kept my eyes on the screen, pretending to be busy. The conversation moved on without me. I knew I had to try something else, but I didn't know what yet.
I said quietly, you don't need the perfect sentence. Try starting with a simple connector. That was the turning point. You needed permission to be imperfect.
I checked my phone, opening a half-finished voice note I recorded earlier about a work problem. The useful wording here is, the way I see it, ... Complication state of a half-finished voice note on my phone. One line recorded, then paused. I adds a second attempt. I finishes and sends it. Use your own line before the model. Keep this pattern in mind. The real challenge is. One complete answer is the real challenge is. Now give a different answer aloud.
You opened the voice note and started recording. You said, I'm learning to speak before I feel ready. That was a brave first step towards change.
The note was half finished. I felt a small spark of hope. Maybe I could change my approach after all. I decided to try again with Leo's advice.
I noticed the shift in your energy. You were no longer hiding. You were preparing to re-enter the conversation. That's when I knew you were ready for the next step.
I opened the voice note. I listened to my recorded words. I'm learning to speak before I feel ready. Then I pause it. The silence in my earbuds matches the silence around me. Leo must have seen me.
Maya checks her phone, opening a half-finished voice note she recorded earlier about a work problem. The useful wording here is, the way I see it. Complication state of a half-finished voice note on Maya's phone. One line recorded, then paused. She adds a second attempt. She finishes and sends it. The phrase, the pause grows longer, means the speaker's intention in this moment is being stated clearly. For example, the pause grows longer. Say it once, then connect it to what just happened.
I hear Leo's words, and I realize he's right. The pause was growing longer. I look at the voice note again. It's not just about the note. It's about every conversation. I point to the screen and say, this is what I do. I pause until the moment dies.
Now you see it. That awareness is the first step. The voice note isn't the problem. The habit of pausing is. But habits can change. You already started by recording that first line. Now, instead of pausing, what if you used a simple connector to jump in?
The consequence of my pause is that I miss connections. I tell Leo I missed the joke earlier because I was rehearsing. And now I'm missing this moment with you because I'm stuck in the voice note. I set the phone down, deciding to focus on the conversation.
Exactly. The cost is real human contact. But you have a choice. You can stay in the voice note, or you can use a simple starter to re-enter. I suggest you try the way I see it. When you feel the pause starting.
The way I see it, that's it? That simple? I feel a small trigger of hope. Maybe I can use that phrase right now. I repeat it in my head, the way I see it. It feels manageable. I decide to try it on the next topic.
You miss the moment when you wait for perfect. Miss the moment. That's what we call it. Weak English. I lost the opportunity to speak. Natural. I missed the moment. Shorter, more direct. For example, just now, you almost missed this moment with me. But you didn't.
I don't want to miss the moment again. So I choose to use the way I see it next time. I'll say it even if it feels imperfect. That's my choice. I'm ready to try.
Good. Now let's act on that choice. The next topic is about the project deadline. When you hear a pause, say the way I see it. And then your thought. I'll be right here. Go ahead.
The way I see it. That's my launch pad. I don't need the perfect sentence. Just start. I take a breath and prepare to speak on the next pause.
That's the spirit. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. Just connect. When you say the way I see it, you're buying time and showing humility. It works.
By time, that's what I need. Give yourself a moment to think. Why? So you don't rush into a stiff sentence. Instead of a long pause, I say the way I see it and then organize my thought. Now you try. Think of a situation where you could buy time.
Exactly. Now your brain is wired to catch the next chance. When the topic shifts to the budget deadline, you'll be ready. I can see you're already more relaxed.
I do feel different. Like I have a tool instead of a blink. The voice note on my phone is waiting for a second entry. I'll record something later.
Here comes the next topic. Tom is raising a point about the project timeline. This is your moment. Listen for a pause, then jump in with the way I see it.
On the next topic, I use the way I see it, and naturally explains my opinion. The group nods and respond. Complication state of a half-finished voice note on my phone. One line recorded, then paused. I adds a second attempt. I finishes and sends it.
On the next topic, Maya uses the way I see it, and naturally explains her opinion. The group nods in response. The useful wording here is, the way I see it. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, the way I see it. Listen to the linking in the way I see it. Keep the words connected and stress the key idea. Now pronounce the complete example. The way I see it.
The way I see it. I said it with a link. And the group listened. Tom nodded. I feel like I'm part of the conversation now. This is working better than my old formal sentences.
You see? Connection over perfection. Now the group sees you as a contributor. That's the real win. Keep using that phrase, and soon it'll be automatic.
The way I see it, the project timeline is too tight for that approach. The group kept listening. It worked. I didn't need a perfect sentence, just a clear start.
You did it, and you sounded like you belonged. That's the thing. Once you stop worrying about perfection, you actually communicate better. Now you have proof. The way I see it gets you in the game.
Let me practice another one. That makes sense, but I can use that when I partly agree. That makes sense, but I think the budget needs to be adjusted. It shows I'm listening, then I add my view. Want to hear me say it? That makes sense, but I have a different perspective.
Oh, Tom is shaking his head. He doesn't agree with your last point. Watch what happens next. This is the moment that used to freeze you. The way I see it, speaking before the answer feels perfect becomes clearer when we connect it to a real experience.
My heart races. He's looking at me. I want to defend my idea, but the old perfectionism creeps in. Should I stay quiet? What I mean is, I used to pause too long.
Remember, you have tools now. You don't need to win the argument. You just need to stay in the conversation. Use a question to understand his point first. Could I ask a question? I want to understand your point.
Okay. I take a breath. Instead of defending, I ask, could I ask a question? I want to understand your point better. It buys me time and shows respect. That makes sense, but I think this situation also depends on timing.
Maya freezes internally. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, what changed for me was learning to ask questions. It works better because it shares a personal insight and avoids sounding preachy. Transfer the same wording to a new detail. Start with what changed for me was. For example, what changed for me was. Now make one true sentence of your own.
So I say, what changed for me was realizing I don't need to be perfect. I just need to start. And Tom nods. The tension drops. He explains his view calmly. Let me put it another way. The idea is useful only when it changes a choice.
And just like that, the disagreement turned into a real exchange. You didn't freeze, you connected. That's evidence. Your new phrases work even under pressure. Remember this moment. I used to focus on the result, but now I notice the process as well.
Tom challenges my point again. I feel the old freeze, but I take a breath. I know I can handle this without perfect English. I must not let the moment slip. Would you agree that experience can change a strong opinion?
You're doing great. The freeze is just a habit. Use your new tool. Could I ask a question? That will buy you time and shift the focus. One detail that matters is how the other person responds.
Listen to this pattern. I used to think I had to be perfect, but now I ask questions. Now you try. Say your own version aloud. Pause and speak. One possible answer is, I used to think, but now. The conversation feels different once both sides explain their reasons.
Great example. Now imagine you're in that moment. You have the choice, freeze or act. What will you do? Your answer determines your confidence. The way I see it, the problem isn't just the budget.
I choose to act. Could I ask a question? I want to understand your point. It feels natural now. The words come out smoothly. The way I see it, maybe we can shorten testing if we work together.
Tom nods and begins explaining. The tension drops. You've turned a challenge into a conversation. That's the power of a simple phrase. The way I see it, speaking before the answer feels perfect becomes clearer when we connect it to a real experience.
I listen carefully and then respond. What I mean is, I see it differently because the data supports a different approach. And the group engages. What I mean is, I used to pause too long.
Exactly. You used one phrase to clarify, and now the dialogue flows. This is proof your new skill works. You're a full participant now. Could I ask a question? I want to understand your point.
Now the earlier behavior makes sense. Leo whispers to I, you don't need the perfect sentence. Use a simple connector like, the way I see it, to start. The rest can come. I remember a question pattern and says, could I ask a question?
By speaking before you feel perfect, you stay in the conversation. That's the lasting change. Well done. You've turned a habit around. What changed for me was paying attention to one small action.
Using could I ask a question turned that disagreement into a real exchange. I felt my confidence return. I knew I had to capture this lesson on my voice note. Let me put it another way. The idea is useful only when it changes a choice.
Open your voice note right now. Record exactly what you just learned about using a question to clarify. That's how you make a new habit stick. The way I see it, speaking before the answer feels perfect becomes clearer when we connect it to a real experience.
I'm learning to speak before I feel perfectly ready. That's the real change. I used to wait for a flawless sentence. Now I just start with a simple phrase like, the way I see it. What I mean is, I used to pause too long.
You know the phrase, the pause grows longer? It means the more you wait to speak, the harder it becomes. For example, when Maya paused too long, the conversation moved on. Now you say it. The pause grows longer. The pause grows longer.
I'll add one more detail to the voice note. The key was starting with a simple connector like, the way I see it. That gave me room to think while I spoke. That makes sense, but I think the situation also depends on timing.
I'd like you to make a choice right now. How does it feel to speak without perfect preparation? That's a key insight you should include in your note. What changed for me was paying attention to one small action.
The pressure to be perfect is gone. I can just communicate my ideas naturally without overthinking every word. Let me put it another way. The idea is useful only when it changes a choice.
That's exactly the point of this lesson. Now finish your voice note with that feeling of liberation. Say it out loud so the change becomes real. I used to focus on the result, but now I notice the process as well.
The phrase, miss the moment, means to lose your chance to speak. A weak way to say it is, I didn't get to talk. Natural is, I missed the moment completely. For example, I missed the moment when I waited for the perfect sentence. Now say it. Miss the moment. Miss the moment.
Now your voice note has two important parts: the question technique that saved the conversation and the feeling of freedom. You've captured the entire lesson. One detail that matters is how the other person responds.
I'm learning to speak before I feel ready. It's a huge shift for me. I used to wait for the perfect sentence, but now I just start. The conversation feels different once both sides explain their reasons.
Can you give an example from today? Like when you used the way I see it to jump in. The way I see it, the problem isn't just the budget.
Yes, when Tom challenged my point, I could have stayed silent. But I used could I ask a question, and it changed everything. That's proof that simple phrases work. The way I see it, maybe we can shorten testing if we work together.
The phrase by time means to create a short pause to think. For example, could I ask a question? Bought you time to understand Tom's point. Wait, what? Natural. Let me ask a question to make sure I understand. The way I see it, speaking before the answer feels perfect becomes clearer when we connect it to a real experience.
Exactly. Instead of freezing, I had a tool to keep the conversation going. That phrase saved me from going silent. It's a simple but powerful shift. What I mean is, I used to pause too long.
Now your voice note has two powerful examples: the question and the feeling. You're building a personal library of phrases. Could I ask a question? I want to understand your point.
I'm proud of this note, and it will help me remember what I learned today. That makes sense, but I think the situation also depends on timing.
That's the point. Real communication beats perfect silence. You've internalized the lesson. What changed for me was paying attention to one small action.
The voice note now has 2 segments. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. The scene itself is simple. I check my phone again and records a 15-second addition to the voice note. I'm learning to speak before I feel ready.
Tom is raising a complex issue about the budget. Watch how Maya uses what I mean is to clarify her stance. This is a real test. That makes sense, but I think the situation also depends on timing.
What I mean is, the budget approach misses the real cost of delays. For example, last quarter we lost a client because we moved too slowly. What changed for me was paying attention to one small action.
Tom, does that address your concern about the timeline? I think it's worth considering. Let me put it another way. The idea is useful only when it changes a choice.
I've been wrestling with this all week. The real challenge is balancing speed with accuracy, and I think we've been favoring perfection. I used to focus on the result, but now I notice the process as well.
Tom brings up a more complex issue. Maya uses what I mean is, with a concrete detail to clarify her position. The useful wording here is, what I mean is. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it shows respect while expressing a different viewpoint.
I see how using "but softly" keeps the conversation open. That's much more effective than saying "I disagree" bluntly. One detail that matters is how the other person responds.
This conversation is winding down. Maya, why not finish that voice note you started? It would capture what you learned today. The conversation feels different once both sides explain their reasons.
You're right. Let me add to it. Stop waiting for perfect English. Just start and clarify later. That's the real lesson I learned tonight. The way I see it, the problem isn't just the budget.
Perfect. Now you have a complete record of your growth. And it's not just words, you lived it tonight. That makes it stick. The way I see it, maybe we can shorten testing if we work together.
I can feel the change. Earlier I would have frozen, but now I use "what I mean is" naturally. It's becoming a habit. The way I see it, speaking before the answer feels perfect becomes clearer when we connect it to a real experience.
The conversation winds down. Maya privately finishes the voice note. Stop waiting for perfect English. Just start and clarify later. She sends it. The useful wording here is, what I mean is. The voice note is complete and shared, a tangible outcome. Transfer the same wording to a new detail. Start with what changed for me was. For example, what changed for me was. Now make one true sentence of your own.
I noticed the group actually listened when I used "the way I see it." Earlier I would have stayed quiet. That's a big change for me. Even when Tom disagreed, I didn't freeze. I asked a question instead.
You made the right choice tonight. You could have stayed silent, but you chose to use a simple starter. That took courage. Now you have proof that starting imperfectly works better than waiting for perfect. What's the biggest lesson you're taking away?
I was nervous, but I realized the group just wants to hear my point. They don't expect perfection. So I'm going to keep using these phrases until they become automatic. That's my plan.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to eliminate nerves, it's to speak despite them. You've already proven you can do that tonight. Now, let's lock in that learning with a quick reflection.
I use the way I see it to jump in. The group listens. A colleague challenges me with a different opinion. I respond with, could I ask a question? I want to understand your point. The colleague engages, and I successfully navigates the disagreement. Which wording fits this moment? Answer aloud before I say it. The clear answer is, I used to think, but now. For example, I used to think, but now.
Great work. Now you have two habits, using simple starters and reflecting on your progress. That combination is powerful. Let's see how this changes things going forward.
I'm saving this voice note now. It's not just a recording, it's proof that I can speak without being perfect. That realization is huge. I'll listen to it whenever I doubt myself.
That's a great strategy. You can choose to revisit that note anytime you feel the old habit creeping in. It's your anchor. And now you have a new default. Start simple, then clarify.
Just now, I used the real challenge is naturally when discussing the budget. I didn't overthink it. That's the evidence I needed. This is really becoming second nature.
The conversation keeps going. She sends it to a friend. The useful wording here is, what I mean is. Changed payoff state of a half-finished voice note on Maya's phone. One line recorded, then paused. She adds a second attempt. She finishes and sends it. Use your own line before the model. Keep this pattern in mind. The real challenge is. One complete answer is the real challenge is. Now give a different answer aloud.